Hey guys, it's Will. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. If you're not subscribed and you could subscribe, that would be a huge help. Thank you so much. Let's jump right into this video. It is a list. I love making lists. They're always really fun to do and people seem to really like them. I want your list in the comments, so please give that to me down below. So I came up with this idea of I'm going to date myself here and tell you how decrepit and old I am. I turned 40 this year and I thought it would be really fun in honor of my turning 40 to do my 5 favorite movies from every year I've been alive, 83 to 2023. And I'm going to start in 83 and go forward. So these are going to come out over the course of probably like an entire year. It's going to be like 40 lists, right? And I'm not going to put one out like every day or something like that. So they'll just kind of trickle out over the course of like the next year or so. So please give me your top 5 films in 1983 in the comments. I had 9 movies on this list originally, and I was like, should I just do a top 10? And I'm like, no, that's really challenged myself to do a top 5. Now, one thing I want to explain before I get into this list is that the way I came up with the movies is I looked at my taste in what I consider to be kind of like the 3 eras of my appreciation of cinema. From when I first started watching movies up until I was 15 or so, it was really just like pure joy. Like, I love movies. I love watching them. I see everything. I just react to what I see. I get really excited about it. I love comedies. I love movies with action, them thrillers, Bond, like Batman. I just loved movies. When I was about 15 or 16, I started like thinking more about movies, and I started getting more into like indie movies and foreign films and like that kind of stuff. And my taste started expanding quite a bit. That lasted 15 up until I was 15 or 16 until I was about 29. I went to film school when I was 29. When I went to film school, my taste changed radically again because I started seeing films a lot differently, because I was looking more at the mechanics of the writing and stuff, because I studied screenwriting. I went to film school for graduate school. And then I read scripts in the industry as an intern, and then also as a freelancer. I still do that from time to time. And I did like a film independent fellowship, and I wrote a novel, which I'm now in the editorial process on. And so my approach to narrative material, cinema, the creative process, how movies are made, it's so different now. And my appreciation of movies is very different, and my taste has changed quite a bit. And part of it is that I see different things in movies that I find interesting than I used to. So I'm going to try to combine all 3 eras of my taste and represent them equally in these lists. So obviously in 1983, I was 9 years old when 1983 ended. So I don't remember watching movies in 1983, but there are some great films from 1983 that I do really love. So I'm going to talk about those. So at number 5 on my list of my top 5 movies in 1983, I have Christine, the John Carpenter film. I think this is a really good movie. I love the music in it. I love the ambiance of it. I love the way that it's made. I think the casting is really good. There's some really good performances in this film. I think this movie is a really interesting examination of American masculinity and car culture and masculine insecurities, and the way that those things all kind of tie in to one another. But it's also just like a really good, fun 80s kind of like creepy horror thriller. So I really like that movie. Number 4 on my top 5 movies in 1983, I have Trading Places, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. The Eddie Murphy 80s movies are like some of my favorite movies ever. Coming to America, Trading Places, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Like, he was in so many 48 Hours, right? Like, amazing movies in that era. And Trading Places, I rewatched this pretty recently, and this movie is just so good. I forgot how dark it is. Like, some of the stuff with the Dan Aykroyd character is like really dark, and it's this really kind of cynical examination of racism and capitalism and the way that those things tie together in America. But it's also really funny with really strong and fantastic performances. So at number 3 on my list of my top movies in 1983, a movie I came very close to putting at number 2, Scarface. Come on, this movie is incredible. I think I like this movie more every time I see it. Brian De Palma is just ridiculously incredible. Like, the visual design in this film is just absurd. Al Pacino is so over the top and amazing and incredible. It's like, in a way, it's like the ultimate American epic, because it's an examination of the ridiculous excess of like the 80s and the cocaine era and the violence, but it's also celebrating all of those things, in that it is a ridiculous spectacle, over the top 3-hour movie that just revels in violence and sex and cocaine. And Yeah, it's just, and Oliver Stone wrote the screenplay. I love Oliver Stone, and it's just an amazing film. So I want to tell you the three movies I left off this list before I get into the top two. And let me cross these off so I don't accidentally read the wrong thing as we're getting into the top two on my list of my favorite movies at 83. Gogol 13, The Professional, the anime film. I saw that relatively recently for the first time, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I really liked it. It's just like a nasty exploitation movie that's just like deliberately blasphemous, violent, disgusting, sexual, like sleazy, but like really funny and like kind of self-aware of how ridiculous it is. I have On the Wrong Track on here. This is a youth film coming of age movie from Hong Kong, 1983. It stars Andy Lau. And it's a really good like youth teenage character piece, but that also has some very kind of like over the top action set pieces in it. But it's a really effective film. And it looks at like the refugee crisis of refugees from Vietnam coming into Hong Kong with, you know, the aftermath of what was going on with the war in Vietnam. And it's like a really good grounded drama, but it also has some over the top like action thriller type of elements that are really well handled as well. And then I have Valley Girl, which I almost put at number 5, but I picked Christine instead, in part just because of the music and John Carpenter and how amazing John Carpenter is and the John Carpenter music. I love Valley Girl. I love it. It's such an 80s movie. And I love I mean, first of all, it's a great LA movie. I live in LA, if you don't know, and I love the city of Los Angeles, and it is a great LA movie. It has this kind of documentary-like quality where it just kind of follows characters around different parts of LA, and it allows the characters to kind of breathe and to be themselves in a space and in a time. It's a very relatable human drama that is also this kind of like over-the-top 80s teen movie, and it examines the differences between like suburban, upper middle class valley culture in the 80s and like Hollywood punk, like working class kind of like new wave drug kind of culture in the 80s. And it's a really interesting juxtaposition. It's got some really funny scenes in it. I just really, really like that movie. I was thinking about it a lot because Eureka Entertainment, which is the UK Blu-ray company, just put out a really lavish, or is putting out, I don't think it's out as I'm recording this. It may be out by the time this goes up, but a really lavish, like fantastic special edition Blu-ray box of that. So I've been thinking about that movie a lot recently. I ordered that Blu-ray, so I'm excited for it to arrive. So we get into the top two. At number 2, I have Return of the Jedi. So as an adult, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I think I watched Return of the Jedi relatively recently, but I've only seen it maybe twice in like the past 15 years. But when I was in middle school, or maybe late elementary school, I got really, really into the Star Wars movies, and I bought like the VHS. This was before they did like the remaster ones with the added scenes and stuff. I had like the VHS 3-film set, and I would just watch them over and over and over again. And like I had all the toys, and I got really into like the characters, like who all the different peripheral characters were. And like I started reading books. I read like the Han Solo trilogy, and I read the one that takes place between Empire and Jedi. I can't remember the name of it. I just read like some other Star Wars books, and I was just like a huge fan. And so I thought, if I'm really going to represent like the whole spectrum of my taste across my entire life, it would be a lie not to put Return of the Jedi near the top of this list, because I've seen that movie probably like 25 times, maybe even 30 times. I've seen that movie so many times. I loved that one when I was younger. When I was in middle school, that was my favorite one. I loved the Ewoks and Endor and like that whole world and stuff like that. So at number 1, I cheated. I cheat a lot on lists. If you're new to this channel, if you're new to watching my videos, if you don't watch my Hong Kong channel, I cheat a lot on lists. I have a tie, and it's 2 Jackie Chan movies. Well, one full-blown Jackie Chan movie and one movie featuring Jackie Chan. It's Project A and Winners and Sinners. These are my 2 favorite movies, or not. These are 2 of my favorite movies, excuse me, ever made. A Project A is one of the greatest kind of like martial arts comedies ever made, whatever you would call Jackie style action comedy. Like it's just an incredible movie with amazing fight scenes in it. It's really like I would say a big step forward in the evolution of Jackie as a filmmaker, in terms of like he's taking stuff out of the kind of historical past. He's making it more recognizably set in Hong Kong as opposed to just kind of like a generic Chinese language setting. And he's focusing, I think, even more so than he was before on like the everyman type of like Hong Kong character. And I just think it's a fantastic movie. And you could also break down a lot of its historical importance. And then Winners and Sinners is just one of my favorite movies ever. It's mainly a comedy, but that has some really great martial arts fighting in it. It's directed by Sammo Hung, and Sammo Hung is also in it. Sherry Chung is in it. Jackie Chan is in it. Richard Ng is in it. One of the greatest screen comedians ever, for my money. Charlie Chin is in it. Stanley Fung. It's just a great, great, great comedy. I think Lam Ching Ying is in it too. It's got a great cast. James Teen in it. James Teen might even be in it. You know, who's in like The Big Boss with Bruce Lee. But it's that movie just cracks me up. It is so funny. But then there's this amazing set piece where Jackie is on roller skates and he's like chasing these guys, and then he's weaving in and out of traffic on his roller skates, and then cars start crashing and piling. It's amazing. It's like classic Jackie Chan, classic Sammo Hung. It's a great freaking movie. So those are my top 5 movies in 1983. Like I said, let me know yours in the comments. 84 will be coming, 85, 86, blah, 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 all the way up to 2023. My name is Will. I thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.